I realized this one silly little dating site for money has the ability to change the way money works forever. If you just invest in stocks, you invest in mutual funds, you're not protected at all.
It's about relationship. It's about not wanting to hurt your lender, putting things in place where they will win. That's what Private Money Club is.
Because you meet a wider range of people and you're able to connect with them.
For me, what's important in lending private money is forming those relationships.
What's up, everybody? It's another week, which means it's another wealth webinar, and we've got a really exciting program for you. And I kind of want to just reflect a little bit. You know, we often meet some of you face to face at live events that we put on, but for years, we've only known some of you as a name on a screen, maybe, you know, a Facebook profile or an Instagram profile, but we've never really got to shake hands, throw hugs. So very few of you have actually had that opportunity, but not even a week ago, we had our PMC Money Tank event out there in Utah, and we actually got to meet a whole bunch of you face to face. It was an amazing 2 days or 3 days for the VIP group where we got to really hang out. We got to have a lot of fun. We got to build relationships, and not just us, but the entire group, the entire Private Money Club group that showed up live, they were all getting to meet other folks on Private Money Club that they only saw on Private Money Club, on public forum, and things like that. So I think today, what would be really fun, and really, I hope all of you enjoy this as well, is hearing a little firsthand experience of what it was like to come out to the PMC Money Tank, to learn, to decide how they're going to make money together and solve each other's problems. And we brought two of them on. We're going to just basically have Eknath and Kendrick talk a little bit. Now, let me preface this real quick. After they showed up, we didn't know who either one of them were. They were both shockingly good-looking men that showed up to the event, ready to rock and roll. But what I didn't know is that Kendrick was the borrower and Eknath was the lender. It was arranged on PMC that, you know, Eknath was going to pick Kendrick up at the airport. They were going to drive together to the event, get to know each other, build a relationship, and voila, the rest is actually in the history books. And I want to just turn this over. Eknath, I guess I'll turn it over and I'll start with you. I'll pin you up. Can you just talk a little bit about the before and after the PMC Money Tank event, like what it meant to you, what happened at that event, and just whatever highlights you have for it?
So first, thanks for having me on and out here to this. A couple of things. So I joined PMC, and the whole Private Money Club was great to join, get online. And so a couple of things that I did is I did talk to a number of the people here that were part of PMC before I came out to this event. And I spent a good amount of time talking to Kendrick, getting to know him, and it was awesome. And so as we started putting a couple of deals together, he said, hey, you should come out, because my thing was I was going to stalk Kendrick, right? So I'm a little old fashioned. I like to meet people in person, kind of shake their hand. So, you know, my first call to Kendrick was like, hey, where are you going? When are you going to go to this particular city? I'll just go like show up and we could talk and meet. And he said, hey, why don't you come out here? You could be my +1. And I felt very special. I said, you know what? I will pick you up at the airport and be your Uber if you will let me be your +1. So that's what we did. And so coming into the event, it was really good to just kind of shake not only his hand, but so many other people that I've had discussions with before I came out. And I think the difference to me was actually seeing people in person, you know, talking to other lenders, us just kind of discussing different strategies that we had, and then talking to borrowers and seeing what they're interested in. So to me, the huge difference is when you go in person, there is a lot of camaraderie within this group. And I think that to me is like one of the biggest things, just the camaraderie, sharing strategy, people want to help you out. This is what happens within the group. So it is one thing to correspond with people through the messaging. It's completely different when you get together in person. And, you know, once in a while you get to share potentially a drink or something like that afterwards, if that accidentally comes up. And I think to me, it's really where you build these relationships is how the best engagements, the best deals are formed, because you can now have a chance to climb inside someone's head and do this in person. So that's my shtick. Kendrick, I can yield it to you if you want me to just flip it over to him, Chris.
Yeah, let's do that. So Kendrick, let me pin you up and you can talk a little bit about your experience on the flip side, which is the borrower side, coming to the event and getting picked up in style. So what was it like?
Yeah, well, like you said, thanks for having us on. Me and Egnot, we met, I guess, a few months ago. We kind of started off slow. And actually, the deal I had put on PMC had got funded by someone else. And so we missed that deal. So we were on a second deal, and or second or third deal. I bought a ticket, and I bought two. And I was, at first, Joel, I wasn't going to go. He was like, "Nah, come anyway," because I didn't get the VIP. So I got the regular one, and me and Egnot, we talked, and I was like, "Hey, come out. I want to bring my lender out and face to face." So we came out. Like you said, the synergy at PMC was awesome. Meeting new people, new relationships, but meeting Egnot, being able to talk about our deals, future deals, just different questions he had as far as being in the industry, me being seasoned for many years, being able to talk about new deals, Airbnb on wheels, presenting different opportunities to different investors. But, just after borrowing for 19 years from hard money and private money lenders, this is the platform to be. No lender ever picked me up from the airport and had drinks with me. It never happened ever. So, this is unheard of type stuff. So I definitely recommend everybody to come face to face, because you get deals done, like golf course talk. You know what I mean? You don't get a deal done until you're cracking a beer. It's a very, very, we're not talking about all the other guests you had that came out and spoke. They spoke about various things you need for business. That's a credit to you and PMC and the whole team. It's just, there's nothing like this. There's many lenders out there, but as far as being able to have a synergy and like-minded people with the same goals, everybody wants everybody to win. When you're doing hard money, private money, it's like, if you don't win, I'm gonna take your property. It's different. If you, this game is like, we want to win, and so it's not so much about just borrowing lenders, it's about relationship. It's about not wanting to hurt your lender, putting things in place where they will win. That's what Private Money Club is. I think that's the ultimate level. And man, we were super excited, looking forward to the next one. And anyone that's watching, get your ticket.
I want to take a second and I want to talk a little bit about just some of the cool things that are happening right now. For example, many of you probably have seen on either YouTube or Instagram, I did a video. It was just to have some fun about flipping forklifts, or flipping equipment, I think is what we called it. I have a buddy that lives in my neighborhood. He owns a forklift company. I was meeting with him about setting him and his partner up with IBC policies that they would use in their business. And as we always do, I started asking them, so guys, what is the purpose of setting these policies up? What exactly are we going to use them for? Because as you know, it's not about the product. If you want the specially designed whole life, anybody can pretty much do that as long as they know how to build it. It's about the process. So define the process and what exactly you're going to do with this. And they got into their business model. Now, I knew they owned a company that did lifts and things like that. But from the surface, I thought, okay, you buy them from the manufacturer and you sell them. That's a forklift. It's not something I'm really super interested in. They got telling me about it. And they said, well, with our money, what we do is we take our money and we buy used forklifts. We then renovate them, kind of like Chris, how you used to flip houses. We do something very similar, but it's a lot easier than flipping houses because there's not too many moving parts. Yes, the lift moves, but everything is pretty easy to do. And they start telling me about this. And at the end of it, I'm like, holy crap, this is flipping forklifts. This is better than flipping houses. Why they wanted to use the policies? They said, well, Chris, I watch all your videos. He's like, I know you don't know this, but I watch all your videos. If any of you have heard me say this before, I'm going to say it again. In Buffalo, I, for some reason, have just this idea in my mind that no one from Buffalo watches any of my stuff. It's just, maybe it's a mental block. Maybe there's some more to it. But I feel like everything I put out is not watched by anyone here, not my friends, not my family. No one in this area does. And when I heard this, that someone from this area is watching my stuff, I'm like, holy crap, this is awesome. But he said, well, why wouldn't we put our money into this policy, then immediately take the money out, buy the forklift, do the same thing, and I get to make money twice? He's like, Chris, it's not rocket science. It's just It makes sense. So that's why we wanted to have you out. And then my obvious question, because now I'm like, this is freaking cool. I started talking to him about like potential profits and everything else. The hour-long meeting turned into like a 3-hour meeting. It was only ended with my phone ringing from my wife saying, Chris, are you okay? Where are you? And I asked him, I said, guys, what is your biggest struggle with this business model? And they said, money. We only have so much money to buy so much equipment, and we have all sorts of opportunities to buy lifts. And sometimes we just got to pass on them because we've got all of our money out working. And I said, ding, ding, ding. I can solve that problem. And I basically started talking about him. I said, well, first off, I've got money to lend. I can't always do these big $100,000 deals, but like you just described, these lift deals are like 20, 30, 40 grand. I'm like, I can do that all day long. I mean, just in the recaptures coming back to the policy, like it just takes a couple months and I can do another lift. We just had Jordan come out, who's our videographer. He's filming right now. And we recorded this whole video. It was just for the fun of it. You know, I started telling my staff. I told Shauna, I told Steven, I told Joseph, I told my whole staff about this cool thing I found. Because when I did my first lift, I made like $4 grand in less than 2 months. And it was so simple. I bought the lift, I owned the lift, they renovated it, and then they sold it, and I got a split of the profit. I didn't know this, but my team then got a hold of Ark's number, got a hold of him, and they started buying lifts. And I hear of Shauna getting a lift, and Steven bought like 2 or 3 of them, and Joe went out and bought the whole damn fleet, and then Steven's cousin went out and bought one. And I'm like, guys, like this was supposed to be my hidden gem. This was supposed to be my thing, and you guys are buying all the lifts. Pretty soon I'm not even going to be able to buy a lift because you guys are doing it all. But that's okay. It was cool. That whole long story transitioned into what I want Kendrick to talk about. He calls it Airbnb on wheels. And Joe had told me about this, but I didn't know what it was. And at the event, he told me a little bit more about it. So stay with me. You understood the forklifts, but you know what's better than a forklift? Semis, tractor trailers. You know why? That's the backbone of this country. There will never, ever, ever not be a need for tractor trailers, and more importantly, operators. Now, there's big outfits that hire operators, but they don't want that. Operators want to own their own trucks. But the problem is a lot of the operators, well, they just don't have the funds to own trucks. Just like the forklifts, we can solve that problem. Kendrick, I'm going to turn this back over to you to talk about Airbnb on wheels. This is not, I don't think it's ready yet. We haven't done a video on it yet, but I just want to talk to you about like how cool this stuff can be and how far you can push the be your own bank thing, and how Private Money Club is literally leading the way into this stuff. So take it from there.
Airbnb on wheels came about a few years ago. I'm in the trucking industry and been running trucks for about off and on about 13, 14 years, and was not good at it for a long time because the industry as drivers are the turnover was so high. The turnover is like 100%. So when I decided to flip that to assist the driver to become the owner, I started making profits. And so my profits went down a lot because, you know, obviously they're the owner of the truck. I'm not the owner, but it's mailbox money, and it was easier. And it was a way that I could actually make this money passively without being involved every single day. It's just a tough industry. So the Airbnb on wheels, I was like, well, let me finance the trucks that I have to the drivers, because it was easier to get them approved with their credit ratings, et cetera. And then we grew that from one truck to, you know, well, we financed a couple trucks, then 5, then 10, 15. Now we finance about 13 trucks. We have 32 under management. So other owner operators came to us and we provided trailers and dispatching and things like that. So now I was talking to Joseph Joe when I was doing my policy, and I brought it up. I said, hey, I have a deal that I'm doing, but I don't know if it meshes with the real estate, but I call it Airbnb on wheels because of my cash flow. And so from that, I was able to put together a pitch deck, present it to Joe. Basically is where we take one truck, average pricing being $33,000, have an interest rate of 18% because I reverse engineered it to see what can my drivers afford going from a driver to an owner operator. But they make about double the money. They work about 30% less the time if they own the truck. If they don't own the truck, then they're obviously the employee. And so that helped me to back into, okay, what kind of rate can I offer? And most individuals know me on PMC. I offer really good rates because I'm trying to build the relationships. And so 18% rate, 90 days. The 90 days time frame period came where in the trucking industry, you know, drivers typically on the analytics have about 6 months, and then this might be an issue here, there, whatever. I want to cut that in half. So I said 90 days, we would actually sell this note to a note buyer at the 18% rate. The driver can still be driving, making the good money, and the investor makes his 18% ROI, and the note buyer sees a seasoned note. It makes sense. And so after doing so many of them myself, me being the lender, I decided to put this out there. So it's helping the driver become a boss, become an owner. That's what we have on our ad, boss up, become an owner, teaching them responsibility, because they're going from this driver driving the truck to now checking on their truck, this sense of pride. I haven't had any issues. All I get is thank you, wives calling, I get messages. Somebody got their truck yesterday, super happy, just, tears in their eyes. I mean, it's both sides. I'm getting the investors happy, getting the drivers happy. So it's a win-win situation. And it goes with my name, King of Flips. We flipping semis. So that's the deal. But that's it, man. It's a really good, euphoric, positive investment. You feel good about the investment. Not just you making money, but you helping somebody change their life. That's the deal.
Oh, man, I love that. That's that whole, everybody wins. It's a win-win process. I mean, the truck driver becomes the actual operator, and the lender wins. Everybody wins. And the cool part is the protection and the security behind the whole thing is really pretty awesome. So what we're going to do is, Kendrick, in the chat, you're more than welcome to put your info if anyone wants to talk about that a little bit, or just stay tuned on Private Money Club. It'll be all over that. Another thing, if you're interested in kind of seeing what Be Your Own Bank is, we've created a new website. It's conveniently called Be Your Own Bank, or Be Your Own Banker, in case you decide to put an ER after it. They both do the same thing. And on Be Your Own Bank, this site is just going to be case studies of things that we are doing with our money. We're not making recommendations or suggestions. We're just showing you, hey, here's the stuff we're doing that is outside the normal stuff that all of you are used to doing in investing, which is stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, the stuff that you do with your advisor. Now, and then when I ask you, how's that work? And most of you say, not so well right now. I've seen 3 account statements in the last week. Every one of them are down between 10 and as much as 35%. What's yours look like? So when you hear us talking about forklifts and equipment and tractor trailers and lending, from the surface, you're thinking, oh, maybe this is risky. Like, really, on the contrary, it's not, but you got to understand it. You got to get to know, like, and understand it. So the case studies that we're putting on Be Your Own Bank or BeYourOwnBanker.com are designed to show you how it works. And then from there, you can go do your own due diligence. You can talk to the people doing it, talk to Kendrick. You can talk to, Archangel over at United Lift. You can talk to any of them and kind of get a good feeling or not. Do it. It's up to you how you want to do it. So put your hands together for Icknot and Kendrick and what they're doing, and for also showing up, because that's the first part of the game. Stephen, what did you think of the event? Let's kind of get your standpoint. What did you think of, the first Money Tank event that we did?
I love it. You know that. I love live events. I mean, that's what it's all about. And when you can get, somebody like Kendrick and Tess in the same room together, somebody like Icknot, somebody like April. I just saw April on here. I think we put her back over on the other side. But just the amount of students that are there just looking to learn and network and connect with each other. I mean, I'm like a kid in a candy shop at something like that. So it's a lot of fun to me. And then just hearing, people's opinions on, what we're doing and, how we can improve things. Icknot is has a development company and had a lot of really good ideas and feedback and things that we can do. And, if it wasn't for putting on something like Money Tank, we would have never, met these guys, Kendrick and Icknot and, everybody else that was there. And then, that's not even to mention some of the different, speakers and experts that come out and the information, that they share, just the value of that in today's age, when you don't know where to go to get real information. Everybody's trying to sell you something. Everybody's trying to lead you down a path, but just having honest, real conversations. And, what I also really loved about all of the experts and speakers we had there is they didn't just come in and speak and leave. They hung out the whole time. I mean, I think you mentioned it, but there was people out till 2:30 in the morning on the last night hanging out together. The first night we were all, we were hanging out with Sean Whalen with Lions Not Sheep. We were hanging out with Kelly Cardenas and Sean Finnegan and just absolute rock stars in the industry. I mean, the second night doing go-kart racing and just, bonding over something fun like riding these electric go-karts. That if Josh is on, Josh was the Josh
reigning
Sneed,
champ.
the overall champion. So congratulations to Josh. But like those go-karts were so much fun and things like that. You just can't, you can't do virtually. You can't do on a webinar. You can't do unless you put the commitment and you take the time and you go out there and you do it. And I would assume that everybody that went, they got a ton of value out of it and a lot of new connections and resources. I see April on right now and she's down here in South Florida. What's up, April? How are you? So we met her at Money Tank.
Great seeing you guys again. Yeah, it was my first time at Money Tank, and it was an incredible experience and opportunity. And I think, for me, what's important in lending private money is forming those relationships. And that was a huge key component, I think, to the actual event. Got to meet these great guys, Eknot, Kendrick, got to hear about all sorts of different deals, not just in real estate, which is normally my space, but, forklifts and semi trucks and all different types of opportunities that you wouldn't normally hear about. And also forming the relationships, bonding with people, which is always nice, right? You want to do business with people that are like-minded, that you get along with. And that was a huge component for me in being at Money Tank and meeting everybody. Chris, I mentioned to you also towards the end of the seminar, like how great I thought it was because it was all inclusive. It wasn't just about lending. It wasn't just about borrowing. It wasn't just about specific things. It actually was all encompassing, from taxes to structure to how to protect yourself and how to kind of look at deals and different types of deals. So it was really a little bit of everything. And I think that also was a great experience overall.
Yeah, April, I thought it was awesome meeting you. We came in and we'd never met. I'd never talked to you before. And, when you left, I just felt like we had a relationship. And I know that's the same for so many people, and learned a little bit about what you do. And, now it's just like when we see you on and we see you out at different things, like there's that bond, now something about the person. And that's the beauty of that. That's the one thing. The virtual stuff is great. These wealth webinars are great. But when you actually get in the environment where you see the people and you do cool things with everybody, that's when the relationship really materializes. And I'm glad you mentioned that. And thank you so much for coming out to the event.
Yeah, I can't wait till the next one.
Me neither. I think that's the case with everybody. And I'm going to bring one more up. We're going to bring Ruth up. So Ruth just joined us and she was also at the event. April, drive careful. And then Ruth, let's have you kind of say a couple words just about what the event meant to you. Now, I know you've been around the campfire for a while. I've had, lots of amazing conversations with you. You've, been doing stuff with BYOB and everything else, but you came out to the event, you met a bunch of new people, and I'd love to just hear what you thought of it.
I'm now getting very comfortable with everyone and all the concepts. So I really came out because I wanted to know more about how I can prepare for taxes in the future. And immediately you gave me 2 people to contact. Then unbeknownst to me, you bring in Jamie Miller, who talks about improving your communication skills. And that blew me away. And without even knowing anything about him, I signed up. So that you continue to bring on new people, such as Kendrick. That was a wild conversation I had with him. This is why I'm going in August and why I will continue to come, because you meet a wider range of people and you're able to connect with them. And I've talked to 2 other people from my meeting that I would not have before. So thank you.
It's our pleasure. I mean, we loved having you there. It was so fun, just again, hanging out. And you've been to other events that we've done. It was just a wild experience. And I've watched your journey. I remember the first conversations, and I've watched what you've done and what you've learned and how you've applied that knowledge the whole time. And for me, sitting here, it's kind of just been a wild ride watching your whole journey and just your development and, the place where you're at now, which is, like I always say, your journey's just beginning, but it's amazing. Shauna, do you want to talk on that a little bit?
I just wanted to point out too that Ruth was part of our VIP. So we played the arcade games Friday night, and she raced in her go-kart too. And it was super fun. So I just wanted to point out the fun stuff that we get to do together too.
Another cool thing that I really liked about the event, and something that we'd never done before, is we did a VIP and then we also did general admission. And the one thing I can tell you that I saw is all the people that were general that were looking at the VIP were just like, well, how come I wasn't able to do VIP? How come I didn't hear about that? And it was kind of hard for us, to answer that, because really the only answer we had was it's sold out. It literally sold out in like probably 3 days. I mean, we had no seats, and Shauna, we even sold 2 extras, and Shauna got mad at us for doing that because she's like, I have 20 spots. We don't have 22, but we ended up having 22 VIP. So for the next one that we're doing in August 4th and 5th, we're going to open the VIPs up to not 20 anymore. It'll be 50. And we've got some really cool things there. The next event that we're going to do is going to just be absolutely off the charts. It will sell out because we've only got a certain number of seats. And I know for a fact there won't be enough. There won't be enough VIP and there won't be enough general admission. But the cool part is some of you are like, oh, I wish I could go, but I'm doing this or I've got that going on. We're doing virtual on this one too. So not only are we doing live, we're doing virtual. Clearly, just based on the people you just heard talk, you want to be live. But if you can't be live, you can be virtual. Or technically, if you're live, you are virtual because you'll get the recordings after we're done with that. And folks, we're doing this just because we've never really done this. And, every week we just talk and we teach, but it's just sometimes cool to hear it from everybody else that was, right there side by side with us. I love hearing these stories. I'd like to do this more often.
Just for the record, real fast, the virtual is not available for sale yet. So if we do that, it'll be later on, but buy the live in-person tickets right now. You can go over before that part sells out.
Tess, hello.
There you are.
Well,
Tess.
hello. I bet I've easily attended 20 events by this point in time. The amazing thing is every single event I attend, there's always somebody new to meet. The stories are amazing. Like I didn't know about the semis, and I come from a family of truck drivers, so that's very interesting. I love the trucks, but there's been so much to learn, like even my journey. For those that don't know, I was a W-2 employee till January 1st this year. Through being part of this organization, I walked away and I'm doing things differently. Meeting all of you, I want to be involved in everybody's deals. I'm a true Gemini in that I want it all. But the relationships, the opportunities, and I love it when I'm from Doc V's group. I love it when some of his people start reaching out to me and they start changing their lives as well. Because I know what it's done for me, so I know what it can do for you too.
I love it. Thanks. And Alan, you met at the Buffalo event that when we went to the baseball game together. So Alan was there. And then, Mary, we've had at the experiences. Julie's on here today. Tiffany, who just got engaged at the last experience. It is definitely all so awesome when we come together at any event.
The only one missing are the monkeys.
That's true.
But anything, you guys, if you get into this and you start attending, you won't want to miss any of them. It's like I can't even identify 1 or 2 relationships. There are dozens of them. And every time you attend, there are even more. And it's like, I can't even narrow down the number of businesses I want to get involved in because I want to get involved in all of them.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, Tess. There's nothing wrong with that. We love having you at these events. And I know we're going to be seeing you at the experience. I know we're going to be seeing you in August at the next one of these. One of the events we're going to do, I don't know when or how, but we're going to make it so that all the attendees can bring their furry critters. Whether it's a kitty or a dog. We got to figure that one out one of these days, but we'll cross that bridge when it happens. Tess, thanks so much for what you do and who you are.
Thank you.
A lot of times we never do this to the end, but a lot of you are like, well, how do I be part of the next event? It's super easy. You just go to privatemoneyclub.com/money tank. The next event will be August 4th and the 5th, and it's going to be an East Coast event. So some of you West Coasters will be like, oh, why can't you do it in the West Coast? Well, because we were just there. We were in your backyard. So now we're coming back East and we're doing it in Raleigh, North Carolina. The venue we're doing it at is just epic. So some of you may have heard of Ed Milet and Tony Robbins and people like that. So we're doing it at the venue where they did theirs. I don't know if we have any photos of the venue. Here's one
That's
picture.
one, yeah.
But yeah, that's the venue, but it's so much more than that. It is state of the art. And believe me, that state of the art is going to make this event that much better. These are just pictures of other events that we've done with the different people. It's all about who you know, proximity to the people that can get you where you want to be. And we've got a lot of interesting speakers. So one of the cool things about this event is we brought Jamie in. Now, Jamie doesn't mean anything to any of you, and Jamie probably will never be a name that you remember, but Jamie was kind of the outlier who came in. He talks on communication. He spent 5 minutes with me before the event or before he went up and spoke, and just blew my mind. obviously we know communications is important. How we say things, what we say, and just the manner in which we project it are also important. But the way he does his talk and the way he, articulated communication to me is something I've never seen. So we are bringing Jamie back out. He's going to be a bigger part, actually a co-host of certain parts of the event in Raleigh. I know some of you that already met him were like, oh my God, yeah, bring that English or British accent guy back out. His voice is just, it's awesome. That's why you're like, oh my God, I love your voice. And then after he starts talking, you're like, oh my God, I want to be able to do that. So, and then people ended up working with him without him even like offering anything. He didn't even offer anything up there. And I know he ended up helping a bunch of people, including myself and Shauna, and he's going to be working with our entire sales team. So sometimes that's how it goes. But back to the event, this is how you do it. You just either go to this link, we'll put it up in the chat right now, and you can get a ticket, or you can book a call if you want to learn more. It's 833-JOIN-PMC, and you can talk to somebody in our sales team, and they can basically walk you through the different things at the event, how it works, and all that good stuff. So grab your tickets, because I don't want to hear it that later you're like, oh my God, I didn't think it would sell out. Trust me, this one will sell out. We've got a live event here in Buffalo. If any of you are from Buffalo, like this will be probably the only one we do all year. Next week, we're doing a pop-up the 16th. Brent Kessler's coming in. We're going to have a throwback event. The marketing stuff you're seeing on that from Back to the Future and National Lampoons is pretty epic. So stay tuned on that. But that's a free event. We've got a bunch of other events going on, but I don't want to bore you with that. Should we get into some really cool stuff with private lending?
Yeah, I think let's just go back to the basics. Like, let's talk about what Private Money Club is, how it got here, and then, I don't know, just get into it from there.
Private Money Club was really just not a thing. It truly wasn't. We didn't even know it was ever going to be a thing. It started off with, just me having money from selling off a lot of my real estate and not knowing where to basically move that money. I knew what I wanted to do with it. I wanted to lend, because a mentor of mine that I met at an event many years ago said this. He said these words: the ultimate in real estate is being the bank. Well, I was always on the other side of being the bank. I was always the borrower, because I was flipping houses with my wife, buying apartments and everything else. I always needed money. So I was always the guy, and my wife was always the gal borrowing money. And the cool thing about that is we always were able to get money to fund our deals. But the bad part about that is our lender seemed to be the one on every deal that made the most. Now, I'm not sure if that's like that with everyone that borrows money, but it always seemed like the bank made the most amount of money. And they never had to deal with the contractors, the termites. They didn't have to deal with the problem when you open a wall and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is going to suck. They just got their check every month. And I watched this for years. And I'm always like, someday I'm going to be the bank. And then that day happened. Me and Larissa sold off lots of our portfolio. We still continue to sell off our portfolio. So, but back then I had money, and I'm just thinking, oh, I want to be the bank now. Now, who needs money? And I put posts out. I saying, hey, I'm lending. Does anyone have a deal they're looking to fund? And of course, I got a lot of response, and all of you would as well. And you'd get responses where people would literally email you or text you or DM you an address and maybe a photo. If you got lucky, you'd get a photo. So they'd send you an address and a photo, and I'd look at it and I'd be like, what is this? Well, you said you're lending, like this is the deal. I need $200,000. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with an address? Well, look it up, like put it in Google and look at the Zillow. And I'm just like, dude, I don't have time for this. Like, send me your deal packet. And legitimately, people did not know what that meant. It made me really start to contemplate and wonder if these people had ever even gone into a traditional bank and asked for money, because if they did that at a traditional bank, the bank wouldn't even give them a dumb sucker. They'd be like, you don't even get the sucker, get out. I started teaching people how this worked with my book, with our 4-week masterclass and different things. And I started creating really good borrowers, and I started lending money to these borrowers, and it was working really well. So well that friends and clients of mine were noticing in this, and they'd start asking me, so, hey, do you have anybody that I could lend to? I've got money in a self-directed IRA. I've got money in my IBC policy. I've got money just sitting here lazy in my house, in my home equity. Like, could I lend to some of the people you're lending to? And I'm like, kind of like how the forklift thing was. At first, I'm like, oh, now you're trying to take my good borrowers away. But I said, sure. And it started with one Post-it note. Actually, Ruth, who you just saw, is on that Post-it note. Might not be the first one, but I have multiple Post-it notes on my desk with names, phone numbers, and a dollar amount. And these were the original lenders of Private Money Club. And that's how we did it. Finally, it got to be too much of a burden to have just a bunch of Post-it notes. So we created it on Slack. And lo and behold, on Slack, it started working really well. Like I was connecting lenders and borrowers. And that's exactly what it said. Are you a lender or are you a borrower? One day, Stephen and I don't know what we were doing. We were, I think, at a speaking event. We're at the bar, not an uncommon place to find Stephen and I, just letting you know, if you ever want to hang out belly to belly with us, we're probably at the bar. And we're just chatting. And I thought about this. I'm like, there's only two people that exist. There's people with money and people that need money. So I drew a circle. On one side, I put, and I call this the two sides of the coin. I put people with money. The other people are people that need money. So I put them on the other side. And in the middle, I just wrote down community and education. And I started telling Stephen about this thing. And I'm like, listen, like this, all this is a dating site. That's exactly what we need to build. We need to build a dating site. People with money meet people that need money, but we need to get rid of the riffraff. So no institutional lenders, no traditional banks. We got to keep them out. This is just for us. And what I meant by us is us, the private bankers. I meant us, like not institutional lenders, no hedge funds, no banks, no hard money institutional lenders. I just wanted to help, the moms, the pa's, the coworkers, the railroaders, the truck drivers, the surgeons, the docs, the entrepreneurs. I just wanted to help them. And that's where it all began. And we created it. And at first it started in real estate, which is where it's at now. Commercial real estate. What I mean by commercial is you're just lending to an entity. You're never lending to an individual because that's how the rules work. And in a second, I'll lay it out on the board, the different rules that I always cover. Back to the basics, as Shauna would call it. There's a very well-known coach that wrote a book, and for some reason his name eludes me, but he coached Michael Jordan and a bunch of greats. And he always talks about it in the book, how when Michael Jordan would come to practice every day, he would focus on the basics. Basic dribbling, basic footwork. He would do all the basics. Now think about this. Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player of all time. And every time he stepped foot on that court, he went back to the basics. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go back to the basics. But I also want to point out one thing in that. Now, all of you, we got about 120 some people on here. All of you are creators. You wouldn't be here if you're not a creator. And being a creator means you are destined for success. If and only if you don't give up. When I started telling people about Private Money Club, this idea, and I started talking to people about lending money on it and what it could be, I heard things like, that's a great idea, but the legal on that's going to be a nightmare. That's a great idea, but there's no way that'll work. That's a great idea, but nobody will pay a membership to be in that. And I got all that. And, at first you hear this stuff and you're like, maybe they're right. Maybe this is a silly idea, but I never gave up. Was the legal and the regulatory a nightmare? Yes, still is. 16 states that we cannot allow people to list their deals from. If you're a lender, you can lend in every state. The only thing is in Florida, you got to be an accredited investor. Then we had to go through and figure out, okay, well, here's the rules. Here's the regulation. And since the regulators in every state are different, they have different rules and they don't know what we are. They're like, are you a cat or are you a dog? And I'm like, I'm a cat. They're like, no, we think you're a dog. And we also think you're a cat. And you might be a bunny rabbit too. So we need you to do all these things. So we had to figure out the legalities and the regulatory, which took us a better part of a year. And we're still working through that. But again, I could have very easily just gave up. We very easily, the executive team, Shauna, Stephen, Andrew, Gabby, could have just given up. But when you give up, your dream dies right there. I wasn't willing to let that dream die. And it wasn't just because I wanted to create this thing because I wanted it. Once we got into Private Money Club, I realized this one silly little dating site for money has the ability to change the way money works forever. And if any of you saw us do the launch back last October, you heard me say that. We are going to change the way money works forever. Not we can, not maybe, we are going to change the way money works forever. This is the beginning. This is the starting place, right? We just got off the ground. And look at just those people that you heard talk earlier. Their lives are changing. It's not just because of a dating site for money. It's not just because we created the technology that allowed us to bring everybody together, but because it opens up a whole world no one has been shown for the most part ever. And it opens up a world that no one will ever show you. Wall Street will never show you this. Oh, that's for them to play in. They don't want you to know about this. The banks, they don't want you to be the bank. They don't want you to be the lender. They're the lender. Like, how dare you step in their space? The financial advisors and everything like I used to be, they don't want you to do this because they can't make any money on it. So all of a sudden, you're knocking down all the barriers that prevented you from learning what the wealthy do with money. And now you're on the other side of the fence. You're on the side of what the wealthy have done for a long time, what the family offices have done, and what the banks have done for that matter. And now you get to participate, but you don't need anybody to participate. That's the coolest part. You are in control. No one else is in control of this. It's just you. And there's a good and bad to that, because you're in control of your money. You're in control of your outcome. You're in control of your dream. That requires you to do a little bit of education, a little bit of due diligence, and it requires you to become a good steward of your money. I can't stand it when someone comes and says, can't we just give you the money and you do it for us? No, that's not the point. I'm teaching you how to be in control of your money. And I get it. It's not because of anything that's wrong with people that say that. It's just that's what they've been conditioned to do. And I bet you a lot of you, when you started becoming the bank, your mind slips back and you're like, oh, I kind of just wish I could just give this money to Chris or Steven or Sean and just have them do it. But no, you don't. You're just saying that because that's what you've always been taught to do. And it's riding the backward bicycle. You got to come back over and say, no, I need to do this. And the reason why you need to learn to do this is because there isn't anyone on this planet that cares more about your money and your family than you do. So wouldn't that just make sense? That because you care more about it, that you should be in control, in charge, and be a good steward of it? Absolutely. That's all this does, is that opens that whole world up to everyone. And we're going to get a lot of pushback. This is not going to be an easy journey. I guarantee you, when we start getting to a certain size, we're going to get pushback from banks. We're going to get pushback from regulators. We're going to get pushback from Wall Street. Why? Not because we're doing anything wrong, but because we are taking something that they have controlled for the longest period of time that none of us should know about. And it's going to be interesting to see how it works. But all of us, not just me, not just Shauna, not just Steven, all of us are going to do this together. We're going to change the future, the way money works for every person that chooses, because it is a choice, to want to be a good steward of their money. Your real estate business lives and dies by the network and the connections that you make. I mean, after all, your network, well, it's your net worth. That's what you always heard, right? If that's an area where you desire improvement, well, Private Money Club, it's for you. PMC saves you precious time and money by bringing the real estate world, well, right to you, right in the palm of your hand. So get in on the action, like so many others have, by going to privatemoneyclub.com and sign up. And here's some of the rules. So I don't care if it's tractor trailers, I don't care if it's forklifts, I don't care if it's real estate. We all must understand some of the basic fundamentals. As I like to call it, the first law that I want you to understand. This isn't the first law of wealth, but it is the first law I want you to understand here is you should only invest in things that you know, like, and understand. It is the third law of wealth, and it is basically you need to get good at protecting your wealth. It is not hard. It starts with that simple phrase that I just said. Get yourself to a point where you invest in things you know, like, and understand.
So just real quick, because I think everything you're going into, I think we could kind of hit. So Pristine in the chat said, you know, we just found out about this and we want to do a reverse mortgage and pull some equity out to start the process. A reverse mortgage, because last year my husband got behind on some bills and his credit is taking a hit, and we have over 200 in equity in the house. So I was wondering if you could go through everything you're about to, but using the number 200,000 kind of as the example. So whether that's someone's equity, their cash, their self-directed IRA, we obviously aren't going to be giving like advice or anything like as a disclaimer, like for your specific thing. But I think if we talk to all the laws with that number, that might help get some ideas for her situation.
I love it. I love it. And so we're going to use $200,000. We're going to protect our wealth, which means you're going to invest in things you know, like, and understand. If you don't know anything about forklifts, which most of you don't, you have a choice. You can do what I do and you can learn a little bit about it. But protecting your wealth goes one step further than just, know, like, and understand. It also comes down to protect your asset that you're lending on or investing in. And if you just invest in stocks, you invest in mutual funds, if you invest in ETFs, you're not protected at all. Everything is reliant on that company or whatever that is that you're investing in doing good or doing bad. You have no control over that. But here in this world, you are in full control. So let me just pick on 200. If someone had 200 grand, and I'm going to go down a couple different things. I'm actually going to draw 3 columns. Okay. And we're going to basically do 3 different things. Number one, let's just pretend that's the forklift here. If you were going to lend on forklifts, the first thing you'd want to do is really pay attention to the asset that protects your money. and that is the piece of equipment. So how I decided to do it is I could have just lent money to them, okay, because they are an entity. So I could have lent money. I wouldn't be lending individually. I could have done that, but then what's protecting my money? Nothing. I basically decided I don't want to just lend money to them. I want to buy the forklift. I want to own the forklift. So that's what I decided to do. Instead of just lending money, I actually buy the forklift. I become the rightful owner. There's not a title, but there's a serial number and there's like a bill of sale. So I am the owner of the forklift. But I also went to my wife. I didn't really, but this sounds fun. I went to my wife and I said, sweetie, I just bought a forklift. Where can I park it? She said, you're not parking a forklift in the driveway. Well, I just bought it. What do you want me to do with it? She said, figure it out. That didn't happen, but it just plays into the story. So I actually said to them, I said, can we just leave this here and you guys do all the work? And they did. So number one, I'm going to own it, which gives me protection. No one can basically take that forklift. Now, if I wanted to go one step further, and I guess this is something I didn't think about, but I could also insure that forklift. So during the time when I own it and they're renovating it, I could probably take out a really inexpensive insurance policy on that forklift. I'm sure Lloyd's of London and other companies would insure a forklift that I own. You know, they'd ask questions. What are you doing with the forklift? Nothing. It's just going to sit in a warehouse. We're going to paint it, put new tires on it, and we're going to put new seat and stuff like that. It's just going to sit there. Can you get insurance? Yeah. So I might want to insure it just in case. You never know what happens. I'm in Buffalo, giant storm hits, 6 feet of snow dumps on that warehouse where my forklift is. The whole roof caves in, and guess whose forklift the roof falls on? Mine. So I might want to insure that. The other thing I want to do is I want to do due diligence on the people that are doing the work. Just like if you were flipping a house, the contractors you hire, you want to make sure they're credible. You want to make sure that they know what they're doing. For me, I went to the facility and I saw the whole operation. So that gave me a lot. And although some of you aren't going to fly to Buffalo to go to the facility, but you could watch my video and you could see the facility and how they do it because we do a pretty good job. So do your due diligence on the people doing the work. So I'm just going to say due diligence on the people and also the asset. So once you start learning these different things and knocking out the risks that come along with it, first risk, if you don't own it, well, somebody else does, and they could just not pay you for it. Number two, if something bad happened and it wasn't insured, well, you'd have to figure out who's going to pay for that. Number three, doing the due diligence on the people. I mean, it is a forklift on wheels. They could put it on a truck and ship it somewhere, and then I got to chase it down. So you want to trust the people. You want to do your due diligence on the people. And the second thing, you want to get really good at what your terms are. You want to control the whole deal. So the terms on this deal where I own it, they do all the work, they use their staff, and then I just came up with a profit split of 40%. So with the forklift, I get 40%, they get 60. I mean, they are doing all the work. So they get the lion's share. Could I have negotiated a better deal? Maybe, maybe not. But this was more than fair to me. And then also, you could basically just pencil it all out in contract form, which we did. Okay, we did a contract. And then that basically would be the forklift. Now, I'm not saying that's perfect. I'm not making recommendations or suggestions. Matter of fact, you know how we did this? We have a legal team called Reeb Law. You're going to start hearing about them because we want to start basically making sure all of you protect yourself. Listen, I'm not going to be your attorney and I'm not going to do your contracts. So get yourself your own attorney. And what we found is Reeb Law, what we like about them, we have lots of attorneys, is it's a retainer. I pick and choose how much work I need this attorney for every month, and I pay them a retainer on a monthly basis. And every single thing I do, I send to them. So if someone here, on this webinar sent me like a legal doc, I'm not going to read it. I'm going to send it over to them. They're going to review it, redline it, send it back. Then I'm going to read it. Then Shauna might read it, and we're going to say, hey, this looks fine, or let's fix this, and we negotiate. You see, now all of a sudden I've taken that risk off. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a CPA. So I got to have these people in my corner, and sometimes an attorney can break you. So having a retainer that I pick and choose keeps it very affordable. So that's an option you could do. So that's forklifts. Now, tractor trailers, this is a brand new thing, and I'm learning from Kendrick. So I haven't done this, but same idea over here. So number one, with a tractor trailer, there is a title. So I may not want to own the tractor trailer, but I certainly, just like a bank, I want to have a lien on that tractor trailer. If I buy it or I fund it, I might lien it in first position, just like a bank. If you don't pay your car payment or your tractor trailer payment, the bank can come take it. And how does that happen? Well, hopefully none of you know, but from what I see in the movies, someone in the middle of the night rolls up, hooks your car up, and as it's pulling out, you wake up hearing the noise and you run after it down the street screaming that it's not fair. True or true? I mean, I guess maybe that's how it works. So that's how you want to do it. You want to do a lien. I'm sure Kendrick will put trackers on it because this thing is on wheels. Unlike a house, this thing can drive around. I don't want to chase a tractor trailer around the United States. But then over here, second thing, we want to make sure that it's insured. Now, I'm not going to own it. In this case, I guess you could, but I want to make sure I'm insured so I can be additionally insured. The second thing, same here, due diligence. Do your due diligence on the program. How does it work? How do they make sure that the operators that are buying the truck and paying the payments to you, the lender, how do you make sure that they know what they're doing? So again, get to know the people and the asset and what's happening there. So that would be where you'd contact Kendrick. Discuss the terms. What are the terms? What are the dollar amounts? What is my return? How does all that work? And pencil it all in a very good legal document, which includes a lien. So, I mean, that would be, so you can see the similarities. Like we're starting to hit a lot of the same similarities on all of these things. Real estate, no different. And, you know, here we were using 200 grand. You could buy a lot of forklifts for 200 grand. But would I suggest you take all 200 and buy all forklifts? No, it's called diversification. And again, I'm not making any recommendations or suggestions, but don't put it all in forklifts. Don't put it all in tractor trailers. Don't put it all in real estate. Maybe you do. I can't remember what he said the dollar amount, but let's just say it's, I'm just going to round up and say it's maybe 40 grand of it goes here, 40 grand of it goes here. Maybe the rest goes in real estate, whatever you know, like, and understand. But real estate, you got to be a little more careful. Real estate, first off, you can only lend to an entity. So you're never going to lend to an individual. So that's the first thing. So if we're going to do due diligence on a house that we're going to lend on Private Money Club, the first thing I'm doing is making sure that the borrower is an entity. So that's step number one. So once I get that, I'm lending to an entity. And I also want to make sure that that entity is in good standing. You can very easily, and if you had an attorney, your attorney or, you know, Reblaw, you can have them do a search of the entity's name. Is there any liens against this entity? Is it in good standing within the state? Has it done all of its filing fees? Is it everything in good order? They can do that for you. So once we decide we're going to lend to the entity, the second thing is the terms, which is a note. Have your attorney as the lender, or you could use the borrowers, whichever you choose, but I use my own. Have your attorney structure a promissory note with your terms. What are your terms? I don't know, 3 points and 12% interest, just saying. I mean, just put it out there. I don't know, whatever your terms are. I'm just making it up. Maybe it's no points. I lend a lot at 12%. I used to lend at 10%. And I've lent at 18%. So you can see not one is the same, but here, that's the note. The next thing is just like over here, we had a lien. Over here, we actually owned it. Here, we want to protect this, and that would be done with a mortgage or a deed of trust. And the mortgage should be done by an attorney or a title company in the state where the property resides, because each state, actually each county typically will have different ones. So make sure you got the right document and decide, how do you want to protect this? Do you want to be in first place? You know, first lien? Do you want to be in second lien? Do you want to be in third lien? Typically, I won't lend third, but I've definitely lent first and second, and my primary choice is first. But a lot of times, second position can pay you a lot more, and you can make sure that you're protecting yourself by just looking at the deal and underwriting it to make sure that it has enough equity. You can always mitigate risk when you get good at this. So the mortgage, you want to make sure that the mortgage is structured properly. And you also want to make sure that before the deal closes, or when the deal closes, the mortgage is filed. That's important. The piece of paper means nothing if it's not recorded and filed, which how that gets done. This is another thing. When the note is signed, and who signs the note? Just the borrower. I mean, I guess if you're the lender, you want to sign the note, great, go ahead. But really the only person needing to sign the note and the only person needing to sign the mortgage is the person borrowing the money. When you go in to get a loan from the bank, the loan officer, maybe they do sign some of it, but really you're the borrower, you're the only one signing. The note, the mortgage, I go an extra step and I do a personal guarantee. I want to make sure that if they don't pay me, I know I've got a position on the house, but I also want to make sure that I've also got a position on whatever personal assets that borrower has. Now, this is not required. This is just something that you might want to consider. And this is something that I do. The other thing too is don't ever, and please remember this and write this down. Don't ever send the money directly to the borrower, please. When you get the deal all done and the deal's getting ready to close and you have to wire or send or mail a check or however you do it to get the funds ready to close on the deal. If you're the lender, don't send it to the borrower. Send it to a third-party escrow. That could be a title company. That could be an attorney. It could be your attorney or their attorney. If it's their attorney, call their attorney's office. Make sure they're legitimate. Do a search. There's this thing called Google. You can figure all that information out, get the name of the legal firm, get the person who's handling it, give them a call. And also, if you're wiring funds, verify before you push go on the wire. Call the bank that you're wiring to and verify the numbers. Just verify everything. That's going to protect you again. Remember, everything's about protecting your wealth. Send the money to the third party so that when the mortgage and the note are recorded, then the funds can be released from the title company or the attorney. And there's other things you can do. I mean, we could keep going with real estate. You could set up draw schedules so that the borrower doesn't get 100% of the money to do all the renovations. It's done in draws. I mean, we can protect ourselves lots of ways. And the only thing, sorry, I missed in there is the insurance. I had it over there, but you want to make sure additionally insured in case this house gets struck by lightning, a tornado hits it, God knows what else. But if I had 200 grand, I would split it up among different deals so I'm diversified. So, we got 80 grand going over there, then maybe I'd put 100 over here. And then I've got, some extra money just left over that you could use for whatever you want. Just an interesting way you can do it. But just remember, these are not difficult rules. You just got to follow the rules. If you just go out there and decide to rewrite the rules yourself, like what you don't know, chances of losing money are going to go up. Just know that.
Let's just start at the top. So currently awaiting physical to get started on my first policy of whole life, looking to do $1,000 monthly. My question is, will that first deposit be available in the first 30 days? If not, when could I expect to see it available?
Yeah, always immediately in the first 30 days, if we design the policy and we do it correct. So you'll have access to a portion of your deposit. So if you put 1,000 in, depending on your design, the amount you're going to be able to take out as a loan will be anywhere between 60 and I doubt it would be 90, but let's just say somewhere in the first year, it could be as much as 90 at the absolute most. Most of the plans are going to be between 60 and probably 80 in the first 30 days, because remember, we have no compound interest that has built up in 30 days and no dividends have been paid, but you will certainly have access to that money.
Let's see, where can I find forms to structure deals like a promissory note, etc.?
So that's what I was mentioning with the attorney. So you can always contact your own attorney, find yourself a good real estate attorney that can do the forms for you, because it's not just finding the forms, it's actually doing the form based on your terms and what you want. If you just go on Google and you look for promissory notes, you'll find blank templates. You can write your own note. I know we had a sample note and mortgage done, and they're just samples. They're watermarked. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, those might be in the education section of Private Money Club. Sean, can you confirm that?
Yeah, I think that the samples are, but you're right. They are like watermarked. It's just a sample. But you brought up Reeb Law, and they're actually going to be on our group coaching call next Thursday night. I did put the link in there that they have. It's in the chat. It's like a page where you can get in contact with them. I'm sure having like an actual attorney write you just like one note that you edit would be helpful.
Perfect. So you can just go on Private Money Club or join us next week. Every Private Money Club member has access to a 2-hour monthly group coaching. A lot of people don't know that, even though we send, I don't even know how many emails out about it, but just throwing it out there again. Every month we do this, and we're doing it next week, Thursday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And we'll have Reeb Law, actually the owner of Reeb Law, Scott Reeb, who is also a client of us with the banking. So he's got his own IBC policy set up. So he can really talk the talk and walk the walk, because he's done private lending. He's doing the IBC stuff. So he'll be a great asset to next week.
Have you heard of someone, a LLC, taking their self-directed solo 401k and invest in B LLC, then B LLC invest in A LLC?
I have heard of that, and I would absolutely avoid that at all costs. Yes, it's kind of playing a shell game, but eventually that's going to come back and bite you, because that's going to be like what you just described. LLC A lending to LLC B, and then LLC B investing back in LLC A. If you own all those entities, that's self-dealing 101. I mean, you definitely that would create a taxable event there. You could use the solo K and take a loan from the solo K of up to 50,000 or 50% and invest back in something that your entity owns. But
yeah,
that sounds like self-dealing.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. That's the best answer. Oh, David and Dorothy, I didn't know they were on. We should have had them come on.
Oh yeah, they were awesome. Yeah, I wonder if they're home. They were going on an epic road trip after Money Tank. They were asking if person fixing up the forklift has his own insurance. Is our purchase then insured through him if anything were to happen?
I would assume, I mean, it's a big operation over there. They got about 40,000 square feet, but that's a great one. That's a question we need to ask them. So they probably have insurance on it, I'm sure. But it just wouldn't hurt it's probably cost you next to nothing to insure a forklift. The extra insurance might just make you sleep better at night. I mean, if it costs you $100 a year and you only need it for, how long did your cousin's deal take? You said 2 weeks?
3 weeks.
I mean, that's way better than mine. Mine took a little under 2 months from start to finish. His was a little, about 3 weeks. I don't know how much insurance would cost for 3 weeks, because once the lift's sold, you just cancel the insurance. That's probably like 3 months of, I don't know, $10-20 a month.
I'm going on 3.5 weeks, and Archangel is starting to get daily texts from me. What's going on? I'm just kidding.
Good. Keep doing that. And then he'll never sell you another lift, and I'll buy him.
Drew, I think it's roughly around like 15% is what you figured out, Chris, and Brent's number was really close to your number. So 15% in 3 weeks.
Yeah, it was kind of silly. I mean, and you got to remember, like, you
Yeah.
hear 14, 15%, you're like, that's okay. I can make that on Private Money Club. No. 14 or 15% in 3 weeks or in 2 months. You can do the math, right? Just figure it out. It's a lot. But it's a lot to the point where I just try to make sure that people understand, don't get used to it. Like, that's great, and if you do a couple, but I doubt you're going to become a professional forklift flipper and do
That's
one.
what I'm trying to do.
Donna's trying to do that. So she's going to be the test pilot. She's running the beta. So if you want to be a professional forklift flipper, then, just get around Shauna's campfire and she'll show you how she does.
No, but what actually happened, I put the video in the chat too. So if anybody watches the video, it's like 6 minutes long. And I was previewing it for Chris, which is like what I do sometimes is, like I'll look at it and be like, oh, this is good or whatever before we publish it. And I took just the version I saw and I was like, how do I get in contact with this guy? But in the description, so in the YouTube video description, there's like a Google form that you can fill out with the best contact information, and it goes to that guy. So we're not suggesting it, but we're just letting you know what we're doing.
Make sure minimum earned premium is for forklift policy. Oh, that's good advice. So Tracy,
the minimum is, he said, is you need to have 25 to 30 to like qualify for the program.
He never told me that, but I kind of told him how much I had that I wanted to move. So it was a little different. So with that, I wanted to just do something on the banking, because we've been getting this a lot. I think it's important to cover. Just did a podcast yesterday. It was a really good one with a guy. He's in New York, and we were talking about the banking, and I talked about it on the podcast, as I always do. Sometimes I just can't shut up. But one of the things that he kept saying is he kept focusing on the product. How much does the product earn? What is my guaranteed interest rate? Everything was about the product. And I kept going back to, it's not the product, it's the process. Like, let's talk process. Let's talk what you're going to do with the money, how you're going to move the money. It's so easy to talk about a product, but more difficult to talk about a process. I mean, a lot of people will use cars, right? If you wanted to race cars, you want to talk about the car, but you don't want to talk about the process of becoming a race car driver and the skills that you would need. It's just easier to talk about what's the fastest car. If any of you bought the fastest Ferrari or fastest Porsche out there, there's probably a strong probability, if you've never learned how to operate it, how to take the car through a process to make it do what it was built and designed and engineered to do, there's a chance you'll probably crash the car. We don't want you to crash. Okay, so a lot of the focus needs to be taking off of the product. And let's just remember, why do we use a specially designed whole life? There's a lot of reasons, but really it comes down to, it's the only place we can earn uninterrupted compound interest, have a death benefit should something ever happen to us, allow it to grow in a tax-free environment, and have it be protected against judgments and liens. I don't think anybody's super excited right now in this economic environment about 5 to maybe 6% interest. I mean, yeah, it's better than a sharp stick in the eye, but I mean, with where things are, you can find high yielding money market funds. Be careful with those. I mean, with the debt ceiling thing, money market funds could definitely see, the value of them at $1 could go less. It has happened before. So just be careful. But 5 to 6%, maybe it's better than what you're getting, which if it is, awesome. But maybe it's the same as what you're getting and you're like, but that's not the main thing. So this is a big thing that people get hung up on. Just so you know, this doesn't even matter. Really, I'm being truthful. Like, I talk about it a lot because it's a thing that most people can associate with. But in the future, I'm going to stop talking about the interest rate and the dividends. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to call it this. You're going to get an interest rate and a dividend. And when people say, well, what's the interest rate and what's the dividend? I'm going to tell them it doesn't matter. Because truthfully, It doesn't. The biggest thing that matters is what we do here, the opportunity. Okay. And I'll explain why. The opportunity is all that matters. Now, we talked about three. We talked about, a $200,000 scenario with a forklift. Okay. So we'll just write fork. We talked about a semi and the Airbnb on wheels. And we talked about a lending deal on real estate. Okay. So we talked about three opportunities, but other opportunities are all the money that you're giving away. Think about a boat. If you were going to go out into a big ocean in a boat, would you want the boat that's got a bunch of holes in it? But then the captain says, the boat's not going to sink. I know it's got a bunch of holes, but we'll just keep bailing the water out. Are you going to feel super comfortable going out in the boat with a bunch of holes? But the captain's saying, it's okay. We got it. We'll just keep bailing the water out. Or you go to the next pier and there's a guy that's got a boat and you say, hey, do you have any holes in your boat? And the owner says, you know what? No, we used to, but we fixed all the holes and we'll never have holes again. What boat do you want to be on? It's a stupid analogy, but it makes all the sense in the world. The first place we always want to start with the infinite banking concept, and that's what I want to really focus in on, is IBC, which is the infinite banking concept. This is not a product. I know we always say IBC policy just to kind of bring the two together, but this all in of itself is the process. And unless you can understand the process, you should never buy the race car. Don't get the race car without understanding how to drive the race car. The process is what you need. So if you're buying cars, maybe you got furniture financed, maybe you got credit cards, you got lines of credit. I mean, we could keep going. Whatever your debts are, this is always where you start. And I want to be crystal clear about this. I know it's exciting to talk about forklifts and semis and lending on real estate, but please, 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 if you're going to do this, and we're going to help you do this, can we start at the foundational level? Can we literally go back to the basics and fix the holes in the boat? Because it doesn't matter how much you make on the forklifts, the semis, or the real estate. If you got holes in your boat, holes being money leaking your family every single month, debts, car payments, furniture payments, credit card payments, line of credit payments, these are all holes that eventually will sink your boat. No matter how fast of a motor you put on your boat, if it's got holes, it's going to sink. Someday you're not going to be able to bail the water out. In this case, someday you're going to eventually hit a point where something's going to happen and you're not going to be able to float these payments. So can we just all agree, and I don't care if we agree to disagree, if you're going to do this, can we please patch the holes first? Then we'll get to the fun, exciting stuff that I know everybody wants to talk about, but isn't it more fun to build wealth through your own debts and expenses than it is to go out and take any form of risk? Because this is risk-free. If all we did is we put money into the policy, right? I'm going to go back to the $200,000 example. Let's just say someone's got 200 grand. Let's say we took 100 of that and we dumped that 100 grand into the whole life. And every year we decided we wanted to put $1,500 a month away. I'm just picking a number, right? So now we got 100 grand here. Well, let's say over here, the holes in the boat, we got a $50,000 car, we got a $20,000 furniture bill, and then we got $30,000 in credit cards. Right there, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And we put 100,000 in. So in a few short months of the $100,000 dump in and $1,500 a month, you would be able to take the loan for 100% or $100,000. So let's just erase that. So we take a loan for $100,000 after 3 or 4 months. Everybody's tracking, right? We put 100 grand in that we had. We saved $1,500 a month. These are your premium deposits. A couple months, 3, 4 months later, we take the loan for 100 grand. This is just the bank account, just so you all know, the segregated bank account. The money goes into the bank and we write a check. And what we do is we pay off the car, we pay off the furniture loan, we pay off the credit cards, because that's all the money we have. Your car payment, let's just do the math, was $500. Your furniture payment was $250, and your credit card payment, we'll just do that at $250. That's $1,000. You are leaking $1,000 a month. So your boat has that many holes. We've just, in a couple months, in this scenario of that person that we talked about earlier, we have gotten rid of those loans. Now, the infinite banking concept wouldn't just pay the loans off. It would take these payments, $500 monthly payment, same dollars you used to give away for the car payment, $250, the same amount you gave to the furniture, and another $250, the same amount you gave the credit cards. We're going to basically change the name on those checks, and we're literally going to take those checks and we're going to put them back into your policy every single month at a rate of $1,000 a month. Why 1,000? Because that's how much money you just created by taking back the banking functions in your life and applying IBC. Isn't that a way easier way to make $1,000 a month than going out and taking risk in a forklift, a semi, or lending on a real estate deal? Now, once all these debts are done, because now you got $1,500 a month you're saving, plus $1,000 a month that you're recapturing. I don't care how much this line of credit is, it's not going to take you long to pay that off. It's not going to take you long at all. So once that's off, now your debts are gone. Then you can move to the other stuff. Does that make sense? This is always where you want to start. And we get this a lot where people want to get in, they want to do all this stuff. But then when we look at them, you know, when we ask them the questions, they got all these debts. That's the same as someone on here having 100 grand sitting in your bank account, earning nothing. But yet then over on the other side in your debts, you got $100,000 in debts. You got 100 grand in the bank and you got 100 grand in debts. Where's the disconnect? Your boat's going to sink. And you had the money all along to patch the holes in the boat. Take the money, pay the debts off, recycle and recapture the money you're giving away, and you'll have the 100 grand back eventually, plus all the interest that you were giving away. This is how you do it. And I just think that that's such a vital, important thing for all of you to understand, because if you don't start there, it doesn't matter how fast of a banking system we build or how cool of a banking system, eventually something's going to happen and your boat's going to sink. Your whole financial bank will sink. And Elsa said, after I've paid my loan from my policy, when will the funds be available to make another loan? As soon as your check clears. So let's see. You want to bring David and Dorothy on? I think that'd be fun. Oh, there they are. Very cool. How are you?
You guys.
Doing great.
Hey, what's up, guys?
I'm going to pin you guys
Hey,
up.
Chris, I have no spinach in my teeth. I just checked.
So for anyone that doesn't know what they're talking about, we talked about earlier on WTF. I asked everybody, I said, do you want me to be gentle or do you want me to be direct? And I did it in a comparison. If you have spinach in your tooth, do you want me to tell you about it? Or do you want me to just kind of say, oh, you look so beautiful today, knowing you got this giant spinach? So thanks for bringing that up. So what was Private Money Club's Money Tank event for you?
Oh my goodness, just a game changer. Number one, having transformed our lives with all of your help and guidance, Chris, Steve, and team. It was an opportunity for us to see you, meet you face to face, and to just continue the learning curve, as well as meet members of PMC. We met a lot of contacts there, and we've signed up to do telecons with them and whatnot. We're moving and grooving.
I love it. I love it. You guys are
We're
awesome.
drinking from the same Kool-Aid.
Well, you guys have been around the campfire. We've worked together on a lot of things and kind of saw your evolution as well. I mean, from the first time you ever heard about Private Money Club, what was your first reaction to it?
I mentioned that to Shauna when we were interviewed. I didn't believe it. So what you do is you just keep researching, you keep going back, and the things that you are recommending, you go and research, It doesn't happen overnight. I think Tess says that, you just take it one step at a time. There's a few people that do this as well. It's a lot of time to know what you're doing. We actually just finished taking, we took the money out of Schwab, we put it into a self-directed. And then we had all this money from Schwab brokerage, and we just got it out of the banks. And it's like just in the nick of time. So that just feels like so.
It's a weight lifted.
I love that. And that's, I bet you there's probably a lot of people, maybe not right now, because there's still a lot of hope in the markets, but I bet you, if it gets worse, people are going to be like, oh, I wish I would have done what they did, and it's, I hate to hear that. I hate I shoulda, I coulda, I woulda, but sometimes that's just how we learn, right? Sometimes we got to make mistakes. We got to face the music when that happens. And it's not something people have to. And you both took action. What got you to take action? Why did you decide to do that when so many other people don't, or they call their advisor? And I'm sure you did, at Schwab, you call your advisor and like, oh, well, why are you moving the money? Why are you taking it out? Like, oh, that's not a good idea. That's risky. That sounds like a scam.
It's amazing because in Schwab, after we lost, I don't want to tell you, but 6 figures times a few, our probability of success in Schwab with their artificial intelligent portfolio was still like
99%.
98% success. We're like, what? You got to be freaking kidding me. That was a hint. On top of it, at the time, and I'll speak quickly here, Dorothy was reading Robert Kiyosaki, and she was telling me about all this. And I'm like, all right, well, what is this? So I started going online. I stumbled across Money Multiplier. I said, Dorothy, check this out. This sounds really interesting. Because I did that, that led us to you. And
The rest is
now
history.
our whole life is different.
The rest is history. But we have an entrepreneurial spirit. I had my own business, and unfortunately, I did listen to people say no, 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 no. But I would be Tony Robbins right now. And I think that yes, you have to take risks. You can't be afraid to fail, because we learn from that. You know, surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with like-minded people. It doesn't have to be a lot. It could be one person. It doesn't really matter. You know, fear, face everything and recover. There's all kinds of acronyms. Just keep one step at a time, not overwhelming.
Love it. I love it. Thank you so much for wrapping this up, because that was just some words of wisdom right there. And thanks for being transparent and, you know, kind of telling us that. But I think a lot of people, you know, they go through the same thing you do. They talk to their advisor. Somebody just said my advisor wouldn't tell me I had spinach in my tea. You know, and I'm not trying to beat up on advisors. I was one for 16 years, but it's the old Will Rogers thing. The problem isn't what you don't know, it's what you think you know that just ain't so. And the problem with advisors is a thing called ego. They think they know everything that they could ever know, and they don't want to learn anything new. And we see this a lot. We talk to people's advisors, we talk to their CPAs, and the conversation's always very weird in the beginning. They think they know everything. And then all of a sudden we tell them, listen, no disrespect. I know you know a lot about what you do, but you don't know how this works, which is why everyone, before we will get on a call with them, we make them watch that 90-minute video or the 10-part video series. It's not because we're trying to torture you. It's because we know you don't know what this is, and we want you to understand it before you get started, so that you don't come in saying, oh, I heard those whole lives are a terrible vehicle to put your money out. You heard that from Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, and probably your advisor. And then all of a sudden you see it's not about the product, it's about the process, and the way we design the product is different. Then all of a sudden it clicks, and you just have that moment of clarity. But if you don't allow yourself that moment of clarity, if you don't have that open mind to learn, that moment just never happens for some, and that's sad.
But Chris, we're and Steve and Shauna and Joe, and I'm not going to start naming people because it's a whole team. You know, we're following your lead, but again, it's slow. And the IBC, the process, the policy, I'm still learning. It just takes a while. It's because it's all new. Gee, if we went to this school rather than, how many years did it take to pay back med school?
Too long.
Oh my God, it was worse than our mortgage. But I mean, if we went through this education, and it's never wasted, and my mother always taught me that an education's never wasted, but this is life goals. And hopefully David will finish the W-2 a year earlier.
I hope so, David. I know we've talked about it, and that's all
Indeed.
on you. That's all on you. We talked about it at the event, and you know what? When the time's right, you'll know it, and you'll be able to make that and feel very confident about it. Appreciate
But
it.
you guys are great, and thanks for all you do.
Love the whole team.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. So first off, Francis said, I want to take out my ETF funds from Vanguard. What's the best way to withdraw with minimizing gains on tax? So I'm not a CPA, so I can't give you tax advice. But what I'd suggest is, you know, talk to your CPA or talk to a good CPA and have them look at your gains, and then just say, if I sell these, is it going to bump me into a higher tax bracket? If not, what will be the tax impact? Weigh that out, and then make an educated decision based on the mathematics of it. A lot of times what some people will do is they'll sell a portion of a portfolio now and a portion next year to kind of spread those taxes out. You're not going to beat the tax man. You just not. So, I mean, there's trust planning you could do, but you'd need to have a sizable portfolio to have the trust really make sense. And I'm not even going to go into that because I know a lot of people think the trust today, because they're being sold all wrong in so many cases. People think a trust is like this magic thing that makes it so you don't pay taxes. Not at all. There's different trusts that do different things for different needs and goals. So don't go down the trust rabbit hole, but just call your CPA, do the math, and make an educated decision. Even if you don't take all of it out, that's fine. Pick the ones that you think are the greatest risk of loss, the highest risk, and then maybe just sell those ones. I just had another client come to me and we looked at their portfolio, and if they were to sell everything, they had some losses in their portfolio and they had some gains. And it was ironic, but if they sold everything, the losses outweighed the gains. So they literally had a wash. I don't see that very often, but right now, some of you might see that more than before because there will be losses in most portfolios. And then David said, you said you got started without a saving. I'm not really sure what you mean, David. So when I first started, I didn't have a lot of money. My first policy I was young, I was in my 20s, but I started with $230 a month. And I talk about that all the time. So I was saving $230 a month. Now that's not a lot, but that was really hard for me to save it then. And I remember I was worried about it, but then it became normal. And then after the 230, my next one was over 500. And that was tough in the beginning and it got normal, just like everything else. When you first start doing something, I don't care if it's driving, riding a bike, saving, it's uncomfortable at first, but then you build a habit and you just get used to it. Then you don't even miss it. I always suggest if someone's going to save or invest, do it systematically and do it with money that you're not going to miss. Money that you don't need for groceries, money you don't need for other things. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, that's a tough predicament. You got to really run a budget, look at where your money's going, cut out the excess, and just get down to it. Maybe get a second job, work some overtime. I mean, there's no secret sauce. Sometimes you got to do what everybody else is unwilling to do if you want to be extraordinary and you want to get ahead. And sometimes the hard truth is the only truth. And that's what I got to tell you about that. So with that being said, David, I might have misunderstood what you were saying, but that would just be how I'd answer that in any way. But I want to wrap this up by just saying we hope to see a lot of you at one of our events. We're having a lot of fun with these. The next one, August 4th and 5th, will be the PMC Money Tank. We put the link up already. We'll put it up again. Make sure you grab your tickets or do a call with our sales team, 833-JOIN-PMC. They'll walk you through it and talk about all the options for that. And again, we're not selling the virtual tickets yet. It's just the live tickets. But as we get closer, the virtuals will be available. So there's the link. Check it out. There might be a code, not sure, but you can try entering PMC 300 and maybe there's a discount and maybe there's not. You'll have to figure it out. It's like Christmas time. You never know what's inside those pretty little packages. So try the PMC 300 and maybe there's a discount. And if there's not, still get your ticket because it'll be a wild event. With that being said, Stephen, anything you want to say in closing?
Love you guys.
Awesome. Great way to end it. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time, or we'll see some of you at 4:30 for Ask Me Anything. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. We're putting up tons of them, but I think if you like this one, you'll probably like that video as well. Not only that, I've got a book that I created, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, where we actually show you what the wealthy do in the game they play with money. I want you to have that for free. And if you want to know about all my new videos coming up, click that alert button. Actually, smash that alert button, and you'll be notified every time we put a new video. So we'll see you on the next episode.